Okay, so in the previous videos, in the past two videos, we look at the absolute method of inputting our information, x, y value in reference to the origin, the absolute reference. Then we had relative, which we said the first point, it's always going to be a relative, and anything after that, we have the at symbol, and then we have the x, y values, and the at symbol simply says from this previous point, I'm going to move x distance on x and y. So now we're going to go to the polar method. Okay, and that's just like relative is going to give us the at symbol, but now we change a little bit. So now we're going to do at distance less than angle, and it's always in reference to the previous point. So we'll go to our samples under polar, at distance less than angle. And so before we go there, let's look at this compass. Okay, when we are working with AutoCAD and when we're doing polar right here, you'll see that we have the compass right here and it begins at 0 on the right hand. And we actually move counterclockwise. So we go 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 135. And so this just gives you increments of 45 degrees. On page 10-16 of your class pack, you have another one that another compass that are more detailed that gives you increments of 30 degrees, and so you can look at that as well. But for now, just see if you, as you'll see in this sample right now, you'll see in your exercises, if you are given any given angle in reference, let's say to 90, and then you were to have a 45-degree angle right here, then you will have to add this 90 plus the 45 because you are going in increments from the 0 moving counterclockwise all the way around until you come back, and this will be a 360, but we typically start with 0 because that's our reference point. Okay, so just like we did with relative, right here, the very first point is going to be an absolute starting point. Anything after that is going to be at our distance less than our angles. Okay, now you can do negative angles if you want to, but I particularly try to avoid that because usually in the negative angles, some students get confused, and so I rather say, you know what, just continue adding your angles in the positive direction so that you can just look at positive numbers for now. Okay, so that is our polar coordinate compass right here. We'll see how we're going to use it right now, and this is probably the coordinate that it's used the most or most often when you are using AutoCAD, because it gives you a lot of freedom to do your angles, your distances, because we don't always have the particular locations, or we don't always have the absolute points somewhere, so we use this, and it's very, very helpful. But this right here, it's a sample of how we're going to input our information. Okay, so this is on your class pack as well, page 10-13. Okay, this simply tells us, okay, so we have some reference points and we're going to draw this. So the very first point right here, as you can see the grid, it's a 1 unit increment. The very first point, it's an absolute point from the origin, from the XY axis right here, 0, 0. So we know that our first point is going to be 1, 1. So we'll begin there. After that, we see that it tells us at 2 less than 0. So that's our distance. Our distance is going to be 2. We can see that from here it's going 1 and 2 units. At 2, our distance less than 0. Why is it 0? Because it's going on the x direction, but it's not moving anywhere up or down, so it's just going at a 0 degrees. Now, when we go from this second point right here and we say at, and then we have a given distance, in this case 2.24, that's our distance at, distance 2.24, less than, and then we can see the degrees right here, the angle, 63 degrees. We simply type 63. We don't have to specify the degree symbol because the system automatically knows by the formula that that's 63 degrees. When we get to this point, again, we say at, from this point, I'm going to move certain distance, right, at certain angle. So if I go right here, now if I go up at this point, temporarily becomes a new axis, a new 0, 0. From there, I have to calculate my degree. So as I was saying earlier, see, there's a 63 degree angle right here. So if I know that this is 0 right here, I have moved from 0 90 degrees. So 90 degrees plus this 63 give me a total of 153 degrees. So I'm simply adding from 0 as I move around. So my distance in this case will be at distance of 2.24 less than my angle, my degrees right here. And you can see the same right here. So if I'm at this point, I have gone to 0 all the way around. This will be 180 because I can see that right here, right? I can see the 180 here plus the 72. So 180 plus 72, that gives me 252 degrees. So at a distance of 3.16 less than 252, and that takes me to my starting point. So let's try that. Let's see what we can do there. Okay, so I'm gonna go line. My first starting point is gonna be 1, 1, and I hit enter. Okay, so it gives me a 1, 1 starting point. Now from there, I need to go at, don't forget your symbol, at 2, and then less than, so press and hold the shift key and then the less than symbol, which is your comma symbol on your keyboard, at 2 less than, and then the angle happens to be 0. So it gives me that line right there. My next point right here says at, from this point, and go 2.24 on my distance less than 63 degrees. So at 2.24 my distance less than 63 degrees. Type 63, hit enter. So it gives me that value. And you can tell right here, you can follow your command line right here and the history, and it tells you what you have done so far. Okay, so the next one is going to be at, okay, 2.24 my distance less than, so we said that there's a 63 degree, but we are already at 90 right here, so it's a 63 plus a 90, 153 degrees. Then I hit enter. You can see it went outside of my border a little bit, but I can fix that one easily. It's not part of the drawing anyways. The next point from here is going to be at, I can see right here, at my distance of 3.16 less than 252. So at my distance of 3.16 less than 252 degrees, and then I hit enter. And I hit enter. Okay, so that allows me to create my shape following this particular setup at distance less than angle. That is my polar method of inputting my information. Remember, it's always in reference to the previous point, which is the at, and then your distance less than your angle. And those are going to be the three different ways: the absolute, the relative, and polar. Those are the three different ways that we're going to input our information. You have to know it. You must understand how this works. Otherwise, you really don't understand how AutoCAD works. Okay, so that is the third way of inputting information. Next time we do a lecture, you don't have to worry too much about this, but in this particular unit, you have to understand how it works. Next time, it'll be a lot easier for you to input your information once we go and activate dynamic input. We'll make it a lot easier, but we'll talk about that when we get to next unit. For this one, you must understand how these three ways of inputting your information into the CAD system work. Okay, so that's the end of this video.